What's up, people? How you been lately? I know what you're thinking. You've been feeling like somebody's watching you. You've been walking the streets, feeling like some eyes from above have been looking down on you. And that's us from the rafters watching you, because y'all beneath us. I'm not talking about like our audience. Y'all aren't beneath us. I just mean like the Spurs. We're the best. I'll shut up. What's up, Clan? How you been?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I recently been trying to get on Demon Slayer season 2. So
oh, shit.
Yeah, that's something. Because that franchise is amazing. I don't agree with people that say it's the best ever, but it's up there. It's definitely up there.
Dude, I'm digging the new setup.
Oh yeah.
If y'all see the little neon sign Clan got in the back there, it's looking crisp.
Yeah. You like my little Mario?
Hell yeah, I like the little Mario.
Little Mario and
little Mario actually ain't so little when you put him up closer to the camera.
Yeah.
Like that.
Mario and Sonic, baby.
That's bigger than I thought. But hell yeah. Anyways, soon to be joined by Impeccabull and Matty. Obviously a little bit of schedule conflicts here, so Clan and I wanted to jump in and just talk about a few things first. The main focus of this podcast is going to be, I guess this episode, not the podcast in general, is going to be on the draft and kind of our strategies we think the Spurs might take and what we'd like to see the Spurs take, and you know, talk about some takes we've seen other people say they might like to see the Spurs do. So with that said, Clan, are you okay for right now at least assuming that the Spurs get pick 9? I know we don't have the lottery results yet, but just for the sake of argument, saying, hey, they've got 9.
Pretty much. I mean, at this point, let's just be honest. If we get past 10, then it's like an 80% chance, right, that we get 9. So it's pretty high up there. So I think it's a safe assumption that we get 9. And I don't think it's a terrible place to be in. And I'm sure we'll talk about this in a minute. But I don't think it's a terrible place to be in because the guy that I actually want is pretty close to 9 anyway. So, I think we'll be all right. But yeah, just make that assumption.
Yeah. So I mean, like we said, it's kind of up there in the odds. Obviously, hoping for more. Would love that top 4 to come rolling on into San Antonio. Give us some much needed luck at last. But hey, just for argument's sake, we're gonna say we've got the 9th pick. In this draft, I know I've seen a lot of people say this, and there is no denying it. I mean, from your perspective, what is the biggest hole in the Spurs overall roster?
Funny enough, I think most people would say big, like a big man, which I kind of agree with and disagree with. But I mean, just for the sake of argument and cohesion, I would say the big man spot is kind of the biggest glaring hole.
No, and what I'm about to say might be your second answer. I think it's 2 things, and yeah, obviously you could solve it with one player, but I think it's a big man, and I think it's a shot creator, someone that can go out and get a bucket. And obviously the big want there is Paolo Banchero, because he's kind of both, which would be great, but we're at 9, not going to be there. You know, what is your idea as far as strategy for the draft? Because I've seen a lot of people, and I don't have a problem with them saying this because I get where they're coming from. You know, they are sick of seeing guards pour into San Antonio. They want to see us address the big man situation through the draft finally. And you know, obviously they tried to, I guess, with Luka Šamanić a couple years ago, but we all know that's a failed experiment now and all that. So they want to see us go out there and get some guy that's not guaranteed, but probably going to be very good for us. What are your thoughts on that? Because I am hit or miss on drafting for need where we are right now.
I would not draft for need. I mean, as far as like talking about, oh, we need a big man, so we need to draft for big. No, I think that we just need that guy, whoever that guy is. I would just draft based on potential purely. Like, I don't care. I don't care if it's and this might sound crazy, but I don't think it is. I wouldn't care if it's a point guard. I don't care what it is. Some people say, well, we have too many guards. So, like, it's not like one guard right now just stands out as being a superstar for us. As high as I am on Josh Primo, I'm not just going to bank on that. So I would go straight up potential. And as far as like the bigs are concerned, I mean, at least from what I've seen in my perspective, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like it kind of seems as if a lot of the bigs are going to get taken early, like the really great ones. And by the time it gets to us, they might not really be available. But good thing about this draft is there's so much depth that there's good bigs later on. So I feel like there's some pretty nice core bigs that you can get. Probably not superstar bigs, but I would go straight up potential best possible player you can get. And then I would deal with the big situation in 2025. I'm just assuming we don't get like a superstar level big at the ninth spot.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of of the same mindset there. Especially in the top 10. You know, if it was a couple years ago and we were just sitting at pick 18 or 19, I think that's when you can start saying, look, there are bigs available. We need one. We don't have money to spend in free agency. Let's address the problem. I think right now there's just so many different problems. Obviously, we looked at two big ones there, but there's so many different holes in the Spurs team that need filling that I don't think they should limit themselves per se. That's not saying I'd be upset if they drafted a big, but you know, like we said, basically the top 4 bigs in this draft are probably going to go right around the top 5 to 7. I'm pretty sure Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero, and Chet Holmgren are going to be in that 1 to 4 range. And I think Keegan Murray, he's rising rapidly up through the stuff, depending on the combine, if he does well or not. If he keeps playing like he is, he looks like he's going to be a 5 to 7 pick, which will be just out of our range. Yeah. You know, there's a couple guys in there like Jalen Duren who'd be interesting to take a run at. Mark Williams is a name later on in the draft that could be one to look at, but especially at that 9 spot, I even said this to you earlier. I said, oh God, people are going to think I'm crazy, but to me, I immediately want to take the best talent that's left on the board. I don't think we're at a point where we can be too picky with that, and you just make it work. I mean, like, what I said earlier that I said people would think I was crazy is that if Jaden Ivey falls to pick 9 somehow, I don't think he will, but I'd scoop him up in a heartbeat. Take him, you figure out the rotation later, figure out where he plays with DeJounte and all that, figure out what you want to do later, but you've got to scoop that talent up while you can. And there's some really good players in there. You know, I'm big on Ben Mathurin. I know Impeccabull's talked about Johnny Davis. You've talked about Johnny Davis too. You've talked about Shaedon Sharpe, looking at just potential over everything. But I mean, there's a lot of names in there, so I think we're of the same mindset. I know it's kind of hard because we don't know where these guys are going to fall. You know, is there any big name, as in names of bigs, power forwards and centers, that you'd be okay seeing us reach a little bit on at that 9 pick that may not traditionally be listed in that top 10?
I'm not quite sure. Like, I know Jalen Duren, but Jalen Duren is going to be in that top 10, I'm assuming, right? I mean, it's been iffy here and there, things that I've seen, but what do you think?
I feel like it depends on his combine, honestly, because I'll say Jalen Duren defensively is light years ahead of his age. His offensive game needs some polish and just his overall awareness, and that's where, like, this is where it's so hard with the modern game. Is like back in 2004, I could have told you Jalen Duren would probably be a bona fide top 3 pick in this league. Because I mean, he's like Dwight Howard, but in this league, I have no idea. And it seems like different teams value different things all the time. So I have no idea. I mean, he could still go top 6 for all we know, or he could fall to like pick 15. That's how bizarre the draft is in this modern league here.
Yeah, so you're saying a big that we would take at 9 that wouldn't necessarily be at 9?
One that's not necessarily projected to be in the top 10, but you'd be okay. You know, obviously, like last year, a little different situation. People are expecting certain names to be announced, and then they get up there with pick 12 and they say, we've taken Josh Primo. And, you know, there are a bunch of mock drafts online, and I don't really put any stock into mock drafts and all that. I've said that on my channel, but a lot of people online had him projected around like pick 24, somewhere around there. And we reached up 12 spots and took him because that was our guy. Is there anyone who, obviously, because we're saying the big need is a power forward or center, is there anyone you'd be willing to reach out a little bit at that pick 9 to fill that need?
Maybe Mark Williams. I mean, honestly, I just feel like at the 9 spot, maybe, you know what? I'm just going to go on a limb and say no, because I just don't think it's a necessity to go after a big when all the bigs that's going to be left after 9 or after 8 or 7 are more than likely going to be like core bigs, like guys that kind of do a couple things very well, like room for improvement. But for the most part, it kind of seems like they're kind of set in stone on what they're going to do. So there's no one just stands out. It seems like the people that will really stand out for true potential, like they could potentially be a star at the 9th spot, are going to be guards. I mean, whether we're talking, well, I don't know if AJ Griffin will even get there, but I know that obviously I want Shaedon Sharpe, which he's probably going to be a couple picks above us. Johnny Davis, but honestly, I don't know if there's anybody I would stretch. I feel like any other big that we want is probably going to be available around 2025. The only one that I would say is probably Mark Williams. I mean, maybe Mark Williams. But other than that, no. At that lottery spot, I want me a guard if we can't get one of those top bigs.
See, I'll throw out a name who I think I'd take ahead of Mark Williams. And this one, I actually fully believe that after this combine that happens, I think his name won't be considered as much of a reach. And that's Terry Eason over at LSU. Because, I mean, that guy is a bona fide modern 4, could play the 3 if you feasibly need him to. But, I mean, transferred to LSU from Cincinnati, a good Cincinnati team, comes in, leads that LSU team, averaging like 17 points, 7 boards, an assist, 2 steals, and a block. You're just looking at his game. I mean, he's a pretty good scorer off the dribble. He's the best handler for a big that isn't named Paolo Banchero. He can do a little bit of all. He reminds me a lot of like Marcus Morris, but I think he could be a lot more than what Marcus Morris became in that like 6'8" to 6'9" range. If he puts on a little weight, I think he could be fantastic.
I wasn't even thinking about Terry Eason, because Terry Eason more so, I don't know, because what's his size? Because he kind of seems like he has the frame of a small forward when I watch him.
He's, I think he's like 6'8", 6'9", 220.
Oh, wow. He looks way slimmer than that.
He needs to put on a little bit of weight, but another thing, I mean, look at Paolo Banchero, for instance. Let's check out his dimensions here, because I think he weighs a little bit more. I mean, he's a 6'10", 250 guy, so he's 3 inches, 2 inches taller and 30 pounds more. So, I mean, what if he put on, 10, 15 pounds of muscle? That's a guy who can compete right there.
Right.
I mean, let's look at Bam Adebayo with the Heat. See his dimensions here. I mean, they've got Adebayo listed at 6'9", 255. So I don't think it's ridiculous to say, hey, if he can put on a little bit of weight in like a summer camp training program, that he could be an immediate starter and have an impact at that spot. Especially just given how, the modern league has developed with these guys at the modern 4 spot. I mean, hell, Jay Crowder's playing power forward for Phoenix now. But you get Cam Johnson subbing in there at power forward at times. Julius Randle's an undersized center power forward for the most part in this league. Miles Bridges played power forward at times for the Charlotte Hornets this year, and he's 6'6".
That's a really good point, because modern day basketball, the power forwards typically aren't old school power forwards. Like, even if you look at Draymond Green, I mean, he can play center. So yeah, I get with that. I understand that. And
to that point, our current power forward is Kelden Johnson, who's 6'6" and 220 and weighs the same thing as Eason does.
Well, that's what I was gonna say is that I don't really get too excited about these over 7 foot guys that people seem to really, go crazy over. It's like, I mean, how much utility are you really going to have for the most part? Now, there's a few exceptions, like Chet Holmgren's like, what is he at? Right at 7 feet or 7'1"?
He's 7'1", yeah.
7'1". Okay, like he has so many skills that I understand that. But most bigs that are like 7 feet or over, I mean, they're pretty set in stone what they do. It's not like a huge skill set, like certain bigs. So I don't know. I just don't get too crazy, especially this draft. There's no like over 7 footer where I'm just like, oh my god, like either we're talking about K Soto or who's the other guy that's 7'4"?
Zach Edey from Purdue.
Yeah, and then Kessler, right? He's
what? Yeah, Kessler's like 7'1".
7'1". Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would much rather take a big that's slightly undersized traditionally, that has a bigger skill set than a just a typical big man.
There you go.
Impeccabull? God, Impeccabull, you so cute. He's so cute.
Man, you are the biggest flip-flopping motherfucker on the planet.
Harrison, get out of here.
You're so cute, and then he's like, man, Impeccabull's so...
You just behave on me for no reason.
It's just me and you. Oh fuck!
Yeah. I'm like cockroaches and gonorrhea. You can't get rid of me that easy.
Oh,
That was a nasty 2 things, man. That was disgusting.
What was it Shaq said? He's like, I'm like toilet paper, toothpaste, and other certain amenities. I'm proven to be good. Impeccabull, we were just talking about like our strategy that we go with. And then if we did draft like a big or something with pick 9, who we take. So you can back me up and say Terry Eason there, because I was all on his nuts right there.
Yeah, I would pick 9, going for a power forward. Tari Eason's the answer. There's nothing that on the basketball court besides probably passing that he's really mid or like bad at.
He's a great defender too, right?
He averages over 1.5 blocks and 1.5 steals.
Yeah. Tangible and intangible defender.
Exactly. He's good on ball. He's good off ball. He's good in the system. He's good as an individual. He's a plug and play guy, but he's also a guy that can create his own shots. He's just versatility. That's the number one thing with him. Is versatility. I think Tari Eason would be, if you're going for fit and maybe best overall player there. Honestly, Tari Eason might be the best of both. Honestly.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this, because I kind of wanted to get into this too. Tari Eason, do you see him more as a 3 or a 4? Because for me, he's got to be a 4, just with his frame and the way his game is.
Well, I see Tari Eason kind of being like AK-47, a Jeremy Grant, a guy who can play the 3 in certain lineups. Like if you have another capable guy at power forward, another 6'10" guy that can play power forward, or a guy that's not quite a center, but you would like them at the power forward, and you want to run like a big ball lineup, then yeah, you could probably convincingly put him at the 3. I think he's more of a 4 in today's game. However, I think convincingly you could put lineups in. He could be a 4. He's a combo forward. He's a pure combo forward. So you can really play him at either spot and not really lose too much. I think he's one of the rare guys that has the foot speed to really be a 4-3 combo. Like a guy who probably will end up getting drafted ahead of him, Keegan Murray. My big question with him is he doesn't really have the foot speed to be a 3. Yeah. And he's kind of locked in at that 4, but he's not really tall enough to be a 5.
Yeah, he's not that athletic enough or tall to be a 5, yeah.
So it's kind of like, if he's not playing the power forward position, what else is he doing?
Well, and I'll segue that, because we were talking a little bit, Clam pointed out, he goes, well, is he the right size for a power forward? I was like, I mean, shit, dude, our current power forward is Kelden Johnson. He's listed at 6'5", 220, so he's listed, granted, I think Kelden's more 6'6" and a half when he's in shoes, but I mean, either way, he's a little shorter and weighs maybe 2 pounds more than Eason. My big question is, if they take Eason, what does that look like for us? Is Kelden getting pushed to the 3? Is he a backup? Is Eason the backup? What do they do there?
That's been my question for the last few years, really. Specifically, when you understand that Kelden's that guy kind of at the 3, you're playing him at small forward. I really wouldn't play him at. Kelden does not have the vertical pop or the explosiveness to be like a 4, to be a true 4. Like Charles Barkley is a guy that I would compare him to physically. Like they have the same type of physical build of being very solid country dudes who are very hustle oriented and very gritty. However, what Charles had is he had the knowledge and the basketball IQ of positioning. He's an all-time great positioning guy, which is why he led the league in rebounds. More than just his athleticism, he knew positioning. Kelden doesn't really know that because Kelden's oriented towards being a wing. And beyond that, he doesn't have the athleticism, the vertical pop, the ability to place himself in a specific type of position and get rebounds or to stop guys from getting to their spots. So really, I wouldn't really want to play Kelden at the 4. So then you put him at the 3. With Tari Eason, I think that fits because Tari's he's an ideal 4-man in today's game. He's the ideal 3 even to a certain extent in today's game. Kelden, the one thing with Kelden is the same problem Kelden's going to have at the 4 is going to be the same problem he has at the 3, which is the foot speed. He's just not that fast. Take that back. He doesn't have any type of acceleration. He is fast once he gets to the space, but he can't accelerate. It takes him a while to get that type of speed, that type of burst. And then you have a guy like Devin Vassell who will probably be playing next to him. You play Devin Vassell at the 3, and Devin Vassell's not the tallest guy either. He's like 6'5", really. I thought he was 6'7", but really when I look at him, he's more so 6'5" with a long wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question becomes, okay, you have Devin Vassell, you have Kelden Johnson, you have a Joshua Primo who's in the wings, just looking at, hey, who am I going to be replacing if I end up getting the starting spot? If Primo continues to grow anymore, he'll probably end up being the 3-man, honestly, or the 2-man. I'm not sure, but that's the big question. But I think almost immediately you had to put Tari Eason at the power forward because we're trying lineups with KBD, and KBD does everything that Tari Eason does, just at a lower extent.
Oh yeah,
so, and they're kind of built the same, except Tari Eason's just a more athletically gifted version of KBD.
I was gonna say I ended up doing a video on Eason, and like one thing I said was he's like Ultra Instinct. Like he reminded me of Ultra Instinct Goku because this guy, his instincts around the rim are ridiculous. Like I was really like shocked by his ability to just kind of do everything on the defensive end, rebound, blocks, steal, like everything. So I really liked him. Like overall, I really liked him because he's going to land around. I mean, everything I've seen is round 10, right? So more than likely he'll probably be before 9 because that's usually how that goes.
Yeah, I honestly think I was saying, I'd take him as like a stretch because every mock draft I've seen right now has him at like pick 18 to 20. But I honestly think after the combine, I think we're going to start seeing him mocked in that like 8 to 12 range. And
it might have went up.
Classic riser. I mean, on Tank, I go by, there's like 2 or 3 different draft websites I watch. I watch draft content, but there's like 3 or 4 mock drafts that I actually pay attention to because I think they're a bit more accurate. They understand the players. And one of the ones I've been seeing recently, been watching recently, is Tankathons. And Tankathon has him going.
Tankathon got a 10.
And that's because if you actually if you press on Tari Eason and you actually look into Tari Eason, all of his advanced stats are fantastic. All of his actual tangible stats are fantastic. I mean, he's a fantastic all-around player. I mean, there's no real holes in his game, even for a college player.
Dude, they got him at 3 on NBA Draft Room, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
he's going to be a riser on draft now. I have zero clue where
that doesn't make sense. Actually, I'm looking at this. This makes no sense.
I always watch.
Never mind. Forget it. I'm sorry. Small forward rankings. I'm sorry. Wrong list. Okay,
so yeah, I always watch NBADraft.net because they're like uncanny. Usually they're like, if they're not dead on, they're a pick away because those guys like study the hell out of what teams need and how they draft. And they had Tari Eason up as high as 7 at one point, like months ago, and now they've got him around 10 or 11 and stuff like that. But interesting with them is they've got Jaden Ivey at pick 1 to Houston, which I don't see happening. I guess their thoughts there is Houston sticks with Christian Wood and doesn't get rid of him like they're saying, and you get more of a shot creating guy instead of KPJ. But I mean,
that doesn't make any sense. Now with Jake,
I tend to think the picks. I think that number one's got to be Banchero. No matter who you are, you take him and you figure out the fit later.
I will not be shocked if somebody gets convinced that they need to take Chet Holmgren number one. But
Detroit, I'm looking at you.
Most drafts I've seen got Chet Holmgren 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's the funny thing about Chet, or the crazy thing about Chet is I know this is a kind of a side tangent. I know Chet is like, the unicorn narrative has attached itself so squarely to Chet. I think he might get selected number one based off of the hype. It's the same thing when Lonzo Ball got selected as high as he did. I said the same thing. Lonzo's a great player. He's a great glue guy. I don't really buy him as a main offensive initiator as far as non-playmaking. Playmaking-wise, he's fantastic. Offensively, he has some doubts. I don't really know what he's going to be on offense. And to this point, he's a great player. However, he's not top 3 pick. He's not a guy that you would traditionally select with a top 3 pick. Same thing with Chet. Chet's a great off-ball guy, does a lot of cool things, but it's kind of like the unicorn narrative is kind of making it so that he probably will be end up getting selected one over a guy like Paolo, who I think should be number 1 pick.
Well, at that point, it's about money, right? Like if he has a lot of hype behind his name, or do you think that they genuinely think, oh no, he's going to be like the next whatever?
It depends, man. It depends on these GMs. Like some of them get caught up, and it's like, I mean, and I've talked to certain scouts for certain teams. I've talked to certain GMs, and you don't hear as much from the GMs, but the scouts, they all talk about like certain GMs. It's all about years from now for them, like what they think that player can become. Other ones, it's about, who's the best right now, who's going to make an immediate impact. So it's like 2 different strategies, but I think the thing that like scares people the most is like running into a situation where Kristaps Porzingis maybe could have slid into the top 2 of that draft and done well in those locations he would have gone, and people didn't take him seriously, and then he fell and just showed out in New York. Granted, his career's become what it has with injuries and all that stuff. But he was a really good player for a while, still is a good player. And I think that's where they look at Chet and think like, oh shit, he's got a lot of the same skills. Are we going to make that same mistake twice? Or, are we going to take him here?
Yeah. So you guys have no faith at all that Chet Holmgren's going to be a superstar?
I wouldn't say no faith. I got some. I don't think he's going to be a complete bust like people say. And like I keep hearing, I don't mind critiquing a guy like Chet Holmgren, but the thing that bothers me is that one thing that always comes up that I hear from everyone is, well, he's just too thin. And I'm like, you can't give me that argument anymore because there's a ton of skinny ass players in the league who succeed. Kevin Durant's one. I mean, Alexei Pokusevski's held his own in OKC. He hadn't been great, but people said he was going to get injured first thing. Mo Bamba, when he came into the league, was rail thin and, hasn't lived up to potential per se, but he hadn't been hurt all that much.
Giannis is little.
Yeah, I mean, and now he's a freaking behemoth. But
I can't really make that excuse for like, I don't know. I'm part of the contingent that goes to the entire he's too skinny thing, only because some players can get away with it, like a KD who's a wing guy on the perimeter.
Yeah.
But when I look at big men specifically, his weight is the only thing that's stopping him from being a 5, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why we're not projecting him to be a center is because he's rather than being like an anchor for a defense, he's a much better off-ball guy. Even though he's a good shot blocker, far better as an off-ball guy than just as a defensive anchor. And because of that, my big question is this: like with his frame, he doesn't look like he's really going to add that much mass. And like for every like KD who gained 50 pounds at one point, he was 240 pounds, I think.
He's 240. He's 240 right now.
He's 240 right now. So and he came into the league at 195. So and he doesn't look it, but it's helped him stay healthy, stay able to do a lot of things that he does. With a guy like Chet Holmgren, it's kind of like we've had guys like Bol. We've had that was his entire question is because he wasn't just skinny, he had injury problems. We haven't seen the same injury problems for Chet, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. We've seen guys like Jonathan Isaac, who's a fantastic defender, but at the same time, he can never stay healthy because he's injury prone. So to this point, we don't know if Chet's injury prone or not, but at the same time, with his type of build and his type of frame and the guys he's going to be going up against, I don't know if he can handle the physicality after 82 games. For a game, I'm confident, but for like 82 games, it's kind of like, and even the player that he is, kind of, I don't know, it's just, he's not even like a number one option on offense or even defense, really.
You're saying you're really saying history's not on his side.
No.
Well, and like to preface this, I don't see him becoming like a KD type player. I know a lot of people are like see him being this like ball dominant isolation player. I don't think he's not quick enough as to be that. KD's much quicker on his feet and agile, and all that. I see Chet becoming one of those perimeter floater stretch fours. One thing that keeps me optimistic is that there's been times where he is overmatched in the paint in those games. You know, when he went up against Jalen Duren, I mean Duren was way bigger than him in that Memphis Gonzaga game, but he did a pretty good job. It's clear he knows what to do with his footwork in the post and just using his length in the right ways. That, I mean, he shut Duren down most of that game. I think he had like 4 blocks on him the first part of that. And granted, Duren is a freshman in college. It's not comparable to an NBA All-Star big, but I'm not convinced granted, I don't think he's going to be like the best player ever in this crazy unicorn talent, but I don't think he's going to bust just because we've seen him at every level adapt and at least succeed at that level and get used to it and find ways to adapt his game around it. And I think he'll do that again. Like I said, I don't see him being this 30-point-a-night scorer like KD was, where just, oh my God, no one can stop him and everything. But I think in a lesser type Porzingis role, he could be really effective. And I do think he needs to add some mass just because, for God's sake, he shot up like 9 inches when he was 16 or 17. Like, you're going to fill out eventually. You have to. It's just not sustainable otherwise. So he'll have to put on some weight. But I think mainly I get annoyed when that's the only concern people have. And they don't. I mean, you brought up other aspects of his game in there and all that. And that's where I'm like, if weight's the only issue, you can fix that. It's the other stuff
that's
in
a
there.
Fixable problem.
Yeah. I mean, look at Dwight Howard when he came into the league. He was a shell of what he became.
Yeah, he was just a frame. Dwight Howard was a pure frame when he got drafted. There was no real muscle on his frame. So
I think it's gonna really just be dependent on who he's going against in the NBA. Because some teams, I feel like, especially power forwards, centers, they're a little more quicker on their feet and they can guard around the perimeter. Because a lot of things that I've seen him in college is that he's getting past big men, as far as his ball handling and skill in that regard. But I just feel like when he gets to the NBA, maybe he could do a little work on certain centers, because he has a decent outside shot as well, from what I've seen, right?
Yeah, he's a really good outside shooter.
50% or 46%, I think. It's pretty high. Like, his 3-point shooting is pretty high. So I just feel like certain bigs are going to be able to guard him better than others. It's going to be dependent on this matchup. But if he adjusts as much as you kind of predict he will, Swisheel, then I mean, he might be pretty doggone good. I'll say this: if we somehow got the number 1 pick and we went with Chet, I personally wouldn't be angry. I would be like, okay, cool, I get it.
I'd be a little angry.
A little bit. He has. What doesn't he have?
If we have the number 1, if we have the number 1 pick, it has to be Banchero, mainly because of what we said earlier. That's one of the glaring needs the Spurs have, is that big man. The second glaring need we said was a shot creator, and the third was just a bona fide guy who could be a franchise player, and he's all 3. If you watch I know I say this while I'm repping my old employee shirt, I'm very glad he didn't win the NCAA tournament, but if you watch that tournament, there was no player better than Paolo Banchero, just from a skill standpoint. And I know against North Carolina, Brady Manick plays defense on him and does well. But if Banchero's a year older with more experience, that matchup is way different. I mean, if Banchero's 3 years older and the same age as Manick, that matchup gets abused 9 times out of 10. And he still put up like 21 and 10 in that tournament. Then he morphed into like this go-to guy who could play make for his team from the perimeter and the post, shoulder the load, even played some good defense at times when we were concerned about that, and just lead a team. And that's what we need. You know, he played that number 1 option in college. Chet wasn't even the number 2 option on this team.
How old is Chet Holmgren?
Should be turning 19 soon.
And
This is his first year.
fun fact, Jalen Duren is
Yeah, he reclassified. He's like 18.
he's over 200 days younger than like Chet, which I was like,
Wait, really? Jalen?
yeah,
Yeah.
he's probably
Oh,
like,
that's right, because he just got to Memphis.
he's
Yeah,
like the
he
youngest guy in the draft.
reclassified. He skipped his senior year of high school to go to college. So like, yeah, it's essentially like we say right now. Josh Primo should have been a freshman in college this year. You know, Jalen Duren should have been a senior in high school this year.
What if I said if we got Chet Holmgren, he would be the best blocker we've had since Tim Duncan and the best big man passer since Tim Duncan? What if I said he would be the best big we've had since Tim Duncan?
I don't know about that. I think you're discrediting LaMarcus Aldridge a little bit.
He'll be
there.
better than LaMarcus Aldridge. So.
Are you sure? Did you
don't
watch
think so.
LaMarcus in college, dude?
I don't think so.
He'll be better than
The
LaMarcus
only
Aldridge.
and here's the big thing about Chet, and this is my main criticism about Chet, and why I would not. If it's me, if it's my team, if it's the Spurs specifically, I'm not taking Chet number 1. Chet is not a number 1 option. He is a fantastic off-ball guy. He's a fantastic guy to put around a number 1 option. Perfect type of guy to put around a number 1 option. But the Spurs currently do not have that. They have DeJounte, who's great, but what they need more than even DeJounte is they need a permanent number 1 on-ball creator. You know, Chet.
I'll say this. The only thing I don't like about Chet is I don't feel like he has. I mean, I know he's like 7'1", right? But he doesn't have much lift. And I know that doesn't matter as much. I mean, he's a great shot blocker, but he don't have much lift.
Well, no, he's not going to be a lob. I mean, he'll be a lob target, like right next to the basket, but he's never going to be like a guy who you're specifically running plays just for it to be a lob target or, you know, grab boards over like vertically dominant big men. You know, that's not what you're getting Chet for.
What if I said this? Chet Holmgren, if we get Chet Holmgren, he has the most fundamentals since Tim Duncan, the best fundamentals since Tim Duncan on the Spurs. What about that?
I feel like that's a little bit of an overgeneralization too, because players aren't overly fundamental like Tim was doesn't mean they didn't display. I mean, Derek White displayed great fundamentals when he plays with us. DeJounte, for the most part, displays really good fundamentals.
Where I'm getting at is he'll be better than LA. That's where I'm getting at.
I don't know.
You think Chet's going to be better than LaMarcus Aldridge?
I don't know.
Yeah, he'll be better than LaMarcus Aldridge.
I don't know. Chet's a different player too. That's the thing.
Talk to me in 10 years. Just set a timer. I'll talk to you in 10 years.
10 years?
Hold up. I want to pull this up because
We'll be near 40 and I'm going to be like, I told you. I told you.
I told you, young bloods. So put it this way, man. LaMarcus also stayed 2 years in college. By his second year in the league, LaMarcus was averaging 18 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and a steal a game. You feasibly think Chet Holmgren's going to do that right now, even though he was not the go-to guy in college and has never been. Because LaMarcus was the go-to guy on that Texas team.
So impressive. So he's not even the go-to guy, yet he's still averaging what? What is he averaging again? Let me see.
Who,
It's like
Chet or
17. What was it? 17? Or no, it was was it 14? Hold on.
14. It's 14.
14, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. But what's his blocks per game?
3.7, I think. 3.7.
3.7. How many did LaMarcus Aldridge average?
Yeah, you're comparing 2 different eras, man.
How much did LaMarcus Aldridge?
You
He's
can't.
trying to create a false narrative around LaMarcus.
What did LaMarcus Aldridge average his freshman year in college? That's what I want to know. Then we'll talk.
It's a different. Good God, this is like arguing with a wall. This is like, I'll tell you what this is like. This is like pulling Bob Cousy from the 60s up to now, and like what we've been hearing in the media. And saying,
Goodness.
When was Aldridge drafted? Like what?
2004, I believe.
Oh shit!
He was a top
2004.
He was-
wasn't.
He was a top 2 pick. He was drafted second by the Bulls, and then they traded him to the Blazers for Tyrese.
He was
Thomas.
drafted in 2004.
Oh my goodness.
Marcus Aldridge has been around the block, man.
Jesus.
That man has longevity.
Jesus, 2006. That was a long time.
I joined at a good time.
Yes.
Hell yeah, man.
Yes.
Matty, you agree with that, right? Chet Holmgren would be better than Marcus Aldridge.
Dude, I mean, first of all, you guys know, I don't know a ton about like prospects and stuff. Like, I know who's out there, but like, I don't know who's going to be good. I don't know who's going to be bad. And at the end of the day, none of us do. So I think that's definitely a reach.
I know. Aldridge was averaging.
You so
this?
fucking arrogant, man. I know.
Aldridge, hold on. You didn't want to bring this up.
Man, he ain't even watch a lick of college ball until 3 weeks ago. Talking about he knows.
How many stats did you throw at me, but you didn't want to bring up his rookie season? Okay.
How many stats did you throw at me? How many questions did you just dodge?
His rookie season, LaMarcus Aldridge averaged 9 points. Okay, 9.9. I'm being
Destin, who was Chet Holmgren?
1.8 turnovers. He was main guy. You said he was main guy. 1.5.
Who was Chet Holmgren's starting center?
He was the starting center.
No, he was not.
There you go.
He was the starting center.
Put it this way, man. Let's look at the NBA back then. This is 2006, 2007. You know the guys that are dominant. You've got Dirk Nowitzki, Zach Randolph, Chris Bosh, Kevin Garnett, Carlos Boozer's number 16 on the top scoring list, Elton Brand, Amari Stoudemire, Tim Duncan, Carmelo Anthony up there, Kobe Bryant at the top. This is a big driven league that we're talking about that's starting to trend towards these scoring oversized small forwards in McGrady, LeBron, Anthony, Vince Carter, stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about, a different league. The league's pace was a lot slower back then. They don't work on perimeter stuff. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, he wasn't even shooting threes much till he came to San Antonio.
And you're really sleeping on Portland LaMarcus, man. Portland LaMarcus was, I mean, when he came, there was a reason we were instant favorites when he came to San Antonio in 2015. Because like that dude was a bucket.
23 and 10 a night, man. That's what he was.
You ever seen there's a I used to watch like these like highlight clips and of like, you know, Spurs games, and then sometimes like my YouTube feed used to like recommend me like all these like old classic games, and there's like this YouTube page that plays like all these classic games, like all these classic matchups of, you know, like Carmelo Anthony against LeBron in 2006 or something, just something random like that. In 2015, so the 2014-2015 season before LaMarcus came, we played Portland at home in a triple overtime game. I don't know if you guys remember. I didn't watch the game. It was a long time ago. Like,
he won it, right? He won it on a alley-oop, right?
Yeah, I don't remember how he won it, but like, yeah, it was like triple overtime, and he had like 40 something, and like it was literally LaMarcus and Timmy. It was just going at it for the entire game. It was insane.
Dude, even with us, we had DeMar DeRozan on our team, who's like, look at what he's doing yesterday in the playoffs, and with DeRozan on this team, Aldridge is the one who scored 57 in the game. Aldridge had the back-to-back 40-point playoff games against the Thunder.
Aldridge was top 10 in MVP voting in 2018. People don't remember that. Like, he carried that team. We were 3 games away from the 3 seed, and we were led by LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, our second best player in the starting lineup was like Kyle Anderson, like Matty Mills.
Exactly. No, you telling me Chet's gonna come in and give that carry job?
Oh my goodness, LaMarcus! How many? You just mentioned that he's been the year. He's been in the league. How long? How long has he been in the league?
That was like the most Mean Girls thing I've ever seen. Oh my goodness!
He been in the league over a decade. Give Chet Holmgren some time, man.
Okay. So you think in a decade? You think in a decade?
Hey man, I was just comparing college to college.
No, you are. You said
Chet Holmgren's better. I'm sorry.
Since you want to talk about rookie LaMarcus was playing behind Zebo. on the Portland Trailblazers. So it's not even like he had once he did get opportunity, he immediately started averaging almost 18 points per game.
Once he got the opportunity, he got irritated because he wasn't the main guy in Portland.
Well, that's a different case.
No, that was later though when they brought in Dame Lillard. I mean, for a while he was the guy, and Portland was good when he was there. But like, one of the big factors is like his star teammate couldn't stay healthy with Brandon Roy, and then they had to like reinvest in their guards, and then it was like a mass exodus once they got Lillard. They were kind of rebuilding and set on rebuilding. So Wes Matthews left, and I think he went to Dallas, and then Batum went to Charlotte. Aldridge came to us. Robin Lopez went to Chicago. Like, I mean,
the team imploded on itself.
Yeah, they were a good team. But hold on, let's switch.
Y'all need to just tell me when the last time LaMarcus Aldridge was Gatorade Player of the Year.
Hold on. All right, I'll switch the subject because I'm just gonna save Destin. Like, he's just embarrassed. But if we've recollected ourselves, I'm just looking at. I'm watching the Warriors game on TV here. In the upper right corner, I see. I can't even say anything. These are.
He said, "Tell me the last time LaMarcus Aldridge won Gatorade Player." Hold up! I gotta see something.
Oh, shit.
That's what I need to know. That's what I need to know.
Okay, hold on.
You think they give a trophy for that?
All right, hold on. While he's doing that, I want y'all's opinion on this. Dallas is up 17 in the second half on Utah. I don't know if Luka's back or not, but he's not back.
No, this is Jalen Brunson.
You have to imagine that the Jazz are gonna have to, do something this offseason. Like, I'm not saying blow it up, but like they're gonna have to change the direction a little bit, and like they're gonna have to kind of tilt off either Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's probably going to happen because they're going to ask for a king's ransom for either of those guys. But I'm just saying, is it feasibly possible that we could make a run at one of Rudy Gobert or Donovan Mitchell? Because I'm going to guess that either A, they will one or two of them will want out, or B, the Jazz will listen to trade offers because like this team they have as it's currently constructed is just not going to get anywhere.
And it would have to be a trade?
I think so, yeah. Donovan's on his first year of a max deal, and then Rudy Gobert, I think, is still under contract for a few years. So
they're not getting rid of Donovan Mitchell. I mean, that's just my take. I don't think they're getting rid of Donovan.
Well, they might have to I think they're going to have to, they might have to choose between one or the other. I mean, they don't like
it. Did y'all see that stat that was floating around Twitter?
Yeah, dude. You're more likely to see a turnover from Donovan Mitchell than a pass to Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, and that's the guy that's
like not an assist,
passes to Gobert. He only passes to him like 2 times a game. And like, think about that. That's the guy that's setting every pick for him, and that his primary threat is as a pick and roll big. He's not passing him the ball.
I would give them I would give them Jakob Poeltl, Doug McDermott, our two other first rounders, a future first, and I would say Josh Richardson maybe. Well, I don't know. I want to get rid of Josh.
You wouldn't have to give that much for him.
It's very funny that you're giving Utah all of our white players. That's very funny.
Yeah, that's what they like, man. That's what they like.
That was totally unintentional too. I didn't even think that.
That's what they're like. Hey, y'all want the white Donovan Mitchell? We got Doug McDermott over here.
It was like we could have offered them Doug and Yak, and they'd be like, sold. We're like, that wasn't our offer. Like, yeah, no,
this guy's Austrian, but he went to college in Utah, so he's still white. Take it.
He's just as good as Rudy.
I wouldn't go after you.
Is that Harrison? Is that feasible?
I mean, it's feasible. I don't think I can't comment quite yet on like how likely it is, because like
you gotta wait and see.
Some miracle could happen and all of a sudden they're lovey-dovey. Because I remember after Rudy Gobert got COVID and did that whole stunt where he was like rubbing the mics, like apparently Donovan Mitchell was like really pissed with him after that. and stuff, we started seeing reports of like they weren't talking, like this is bad, we may not see them together again. And then here it is 2 years later, they've already played 3 seasons again together. So I don't know, but I mean, and that's something to look at too, because like they've been saying Mitchell might want out, and I heard a couple of things, people like speculating that he might not get along with Quinn Snyder. And that's where I'm like, well, shit, that's another name that's come out to replace Greg Popovich. You know, what do you do if that happens? So, I mean, I think you definitely have to monitor that situation for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might just have to be super aggressive in a trade, you know, for a guy like that. I mean, it might involve getting rid of, in a situation like that, it would most definitely involve getting rid of DeJounte Murray. But if it's for Donovan Mitchell, I mean, I'm absolutely doing that. I mean, he's better than him, he's younger than him, and that's a no-brainer. But
dude, I think we need to trade DeJounte Murray for a Gatorade Player of the Year, Chet Holmgren.
Oh my
Hey,
God.
not even for the player, just the trophy.
That's honestly a first. I've never heard that before.
I looked it up, Clay, and you want to know who the Gatorade Player of the Year was in high school the year that LaMarcus was eligible?
Yeah.
It was Dwight Howard, the number 1 pick in the draft that year.
Well.
Maybe
Says
we
a lot,
should
doesn't it?
Dwight Howard.
Says a lot, doesn't it?
What does that say?
Says a lot.
What exactly does it say?
Oh, I need it. I want to hear it. I want to hear it though.
No, I want to hear just one.
I'm not saying that.
I want to hear just one of these.
I'm not saying that. I'll be crazy. I'll troll you, but I won't troll that hard. I'm not going there. Shut up.
See, we need to make this a yearly thing. We need Clan to unite. I guess you can't call them the Klansman of the Year because that's gonna get canceled fast. But Clan's gonna have to pick like his Player of the Year, and we're gonna have to track them every year and see how they pan out. Because this I would. Clan, what you think?
Man of the Year isn't what you want to call it?
What you think of Grady Dick, Clan?
Fuck you. I'm not doing it. I'm not going there.
Hey, he's this year's Gatorade Player of the Year. He's going to Kansas. I was just curious your thoughts, man, since you were so invested in high school ball.
I'm not going there. You want me to? I'm not getting anything that gets me clipped like, you know, a few years from now. If this pop off and this get me clipped, oh my god.
Well, hold on.
You said he's going to be the next Dwight Howard.
Let me reel in the subject a little bit, and we can wrap it up. Talk about one more guy because we've kind of talked about 2 of the potential top picks. But Jabari Smith, I see a lot of people saying like, "Oh, he's the number 1 guy. He's who you got to take." And I mean, there's a lot of talent there, but I don't know. I was curious y'all's thoughts on him because I think he solves certain problems, and like we were talking the other day, Impeccabull, that he answers certain questions Banchero doesn't answer yet, but their play styles are so different that I feel like one's going to pop off as that go-to guy and the other is going to have to be reliant on like a point guard setting him up, which isn't bad, but it's different styles.
Well, I'll start with it. So Jabari Smith Jr. That is I like Jabari. If we had like the 3rd pick, of course I would be happy to get him. I don't think if you get one of those 2 top picks, taking him, as far as the Spurs perspective is concerned, I don't think taking him is what you would want to do. But however, it's better to have a Jabari Smith Jr. than not have Jabari Smith Jr. Great off ball, not the best self creator, which is how him and Paulo really differ, is that he excels as an off ball guy, whereas Paulo's a far better on ball guy. Good on defense. Not really a shot blocker, but very good off ball defensively and somewhat okay on ball. I mean, he would solve a lot of our problems. He would raise our ceiling tremendously, but at the same time, he wouldn't really fix our big problem of on ball creation that we would have to address either later on in the draft, luckily, or try to go in free agency and try to sign somebody, or maybe try to trade somebody for somebody. Whether that would be like a Donovan Mitchell, if you can't even pull off that trade, or etc. You would have to still address that big issue, which Jabari Smith Jr. is not going to address that.
Yeah, I feel like he's like a much better version of Rashard Lewis. His game, he's a little bit better ball handler. He's a much better defender, but he's oddly enough, he can get to the rim, but he doesn't finish too well at the rim.
No.
Given what he's able to do. Clan, you'll be happy. He was Georgia's Gatorade Player of the Year last year.
Well, there you go.
So it's set in stone. He's destined for greatness.
He's at the top of the draft board now, immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe was the Gatorade Player of the Year too.
Oh.
And Michael Jordan.
That's what he's doing. He's researching.
I don't know
He's researching all of it.
No.
Just looking up Gatorade Player of the Year. Like, oh wait, I was Gatorade Player of the Year. Oh, you're on here too.
See, I went off brand. I was Powerade Player of the Year.
Oh.
That was like the award he made for himself. Like the first and last ever Powerade Player of the Year.
Not even Powerade. I was like Powerade Zero Player of the Year.
You're like the Pedialyte.
I'm the Vitamin Water Player of the Year.
Yeah. We should hand out that award to like a Spur, like after like a season's like the Powerade Player of the Year or to X player. I don't know. Someone who like was someone who was like the Walmart version of somebody better.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just got that idea. I would do that.
I'm like potentially like a step lower than Goodwill. I'm like the Pulga version of like Charles Barkley on the court.
Oh,
And I think that I stand by that.
so you mean Rockets, Charles?
Yeah.
No, I like aspire to be Rockets Charles. like if Kelden Johnson is the Walmart version of Charles Barkley, then I'm like the homeless dude peddling lollipops on the street version of Charles Barkley.
Honestly, you mentioned Jabari Smith. I'm still kind of confused. You guys have to just fill me in on that. From what I've seen of him, I'm kind of confused by why he's even top 3. Like, he seems more of a catch and shoot. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I just don't see why he's taking precedent over like the other guys. I don't get it.
He's got size. He's got strength. He's athletic. He can do a little. I mean, he can handle the ball decently well. Problem with him is he tries to be Jason Tatum, and he's not.
No.
He can't shot create as well for himself as guys like Banchero can. And like he's got range, he's a high energy, high effort player, so like he deserves to be in the top 3. I don't know that I'd take him over someone like Banchero at that top spot.
The foot speed he doesn't have. I mean, he's fast, but not with the ball. He doesn't have the handle to really rock it like that. Like he can go into his own shot. Like maybe he's a 2 dribble type of guy, in which is 1-2. Go into a shot, or 1-2, you go into the rim. You're not putting chain together combos of dribble moves trying to create your own shots. Jabari Smith Jr. The E is gonna go high in this draft for the same reason that JJJ went high in this draft. That Jaren Jackson Jr. went high in this draft. He's somebody that you put around something. You don't know what. For the Grizzlies, they didn't know what yet until they got John Morant. However, that's why you drafted JJJ. That's why you drafted Jabari Smith Jr. You draft them primarily to put him around somebody. It's kind of similar to Chet, but for different reasons.
Y'all may laugh at me, but kind of. I've seen a lot of these comparisons of him to like Al Horford, but oddly enough, one of the guys he reminded me the most of in college was Harrison Barnes. Because when Barnes corralled it and kept his game to 2 dribbles, he was nearly unstoppable on the pull-up game. He could knock down he had Kendall Marshall as his point guard, setting them up for spot-up threes. If he got a quick 2-dribble drive, he'd throw it down. And, like, he was good at that with the Warriors, and he's been good at that with the Kings. But in Dallas, when he was asked to be that number 1 guy, obviously his usage rates went up and his numbers went up, but they weren't winning anything. Like, he's better suited in that role where he curtails stuff like that.
I feel like he played over expectations for sure. I think he's become a much better shot creator year after year.
Yeah.
What I've seen.
Well, yes. And I mean, that's what happens with experience. That's what you would hope would happen with experience, especially if you're asked to like play that role. And I think that's what I was trying. I was trying to remember what I wanted to say during this. Some of these guys are going to be high quality role players. Some of these guys are going to be role players who are asked to do a bit more than that, and some of these guys are going to be guys that you're expecting to evolve as players. Again, a guy that we were talking about the other day, Clan, was Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was drafted primarily to do two things: 3-and-D. That's it. 3-and-D player. He's never been a great three-point shooter. However, he did 3-and-D. He learned to be 3-and-D. When D Rose went down, opportunity opened up. He diversified his game, and before you know it, he went from just Jimmy Butler to Jimmy G buckets. You know, that's kind of the adaptation of his game. He diversified his game. He learned to do more things with his game. He evolved as a player, and each iteration of Jimmy Butler that we've seen, he evolves and adapts to the situation that you put him into. That's what you hope for in a draft class like this, or to get with any draft pick really that you're hoping to become a star, is that they can adapt and evolve based on whatever situation your team is into.
Well, maybe that's why Chet is so high then, at 1, instead of like 2 or 3, 4, because most of them have him at 1.
Well, that is one of the flaws of the draft. Is a lot of it, like I said, they base it off of what guys could become. I mean, that was our mistake with Luka Šamanić. There were a billion red flags with that dude. I mean, people all over the world saying, "Yeah, I've seen him play over here. He doesn't really give any effort. He pouts when he doesn't get the ball." Stuff like that. And I mean, he showed out in that combine. He had some great G League games, but
39-inch vertical.
Yeah, when it came down to it,
Yeah,
that analysis held true, and we took him because of what he could have been, not for what he was. So it's like this. It's a dangerous game. I mean, the same with free agent signings, man. I mean, we went out and invested in Richard Jefferson for what he could have been for our team, and that did not end up working very well.
Yeah.
And it took finding Kawhi Leonard to bring what we were looking for to the team, and I think we got more than what we bargained for with Kawhi in more ways than one. But it's
the draft is way more of a gamble. I mean, it is a gamble. Like, you don't know. I'm not a prospect guy. Like, obviously, like, I have a general idea, but I don't talk prospect a lot because I don't follow college basketball like you guys do. But it's all
not like Destin does. He
not like Destin does. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
you goes down to the high school.
That's why.
Like,
hey,
middle
listen.
school.
Hey,
that's why I'm so adamant about, like, we got to be active in the trade market. We got to be active in free agency. I mean, even Harrison, you're with me on that now because we have that opportunity. And like we've been saying, we're going to say it 100 times. This is the off season to do it. So as far as who they're drafting, I mean, I like Banchero, whatever the heck his name is. Because I did watch some Duke games, and he is kind of like that guy that can go get you a bucket, and he's kind of has a little bit of that alpha dog mentality, and I don't say that lightly. I think he actually, I mean, with his frame, he just has an NBA ready body right now. So I would absolutely love to have him on the squad, but you're still going to have to make the moves in free agency. You're still going to have to make some moves in the trade market. I mean, shoot, you got like my Abby rate.
Let me. This might be crazy. I know we're about to end it. Just really quick. Would you really want to make any moves after the draft if, say, we had to trade up and we traded like a couple of our guys? I mean, would you really want to? Because at that point, I'm kind of in the mind frame like, well, shoot, do we just want to tank another season? And
because you got free agency after the draft.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Would you want to?
Well, I mean,
really
see what you can land, and then if you can't land anybody, then you go, okay, well, let's start to, not abandon ship, but let's kind of sell house. Let's have a fire sale, and then, try to actually have a real tanking season, not like the crap we just went through this last season.
I think that playing game really changed my opinion on a few things. I mean, I was always pessimistic the entire season. I was expecting us to get the 10th seed, essentially, or maybe the 11th seed. I was thinking that maybe we get like borderline playing game, but we're not really going to do anything. And then game comes, we get curb stomped, essentially. We fight back into the game. I was predicting before the game we'd probably lose by like 5 points after going to a deficit. We fight back into the game, but we can't finish the deal as per usual. And that's kind of what happened. We didn't lose by 5 points, but we finished relatively close after being down a ton of points. And we showed fight, and we showed hustle, and we showed heart, as per usual.
That doesn't. I don't care about like that.
However, if you, let's say hypothetically speaking, we trade up in the draft, we get a top pick in the draft, and you still have DeJounte Murray. That is a big contingent of the entire thing, what I'm about to say. If you still have DeJounte Murray, well then I think you owe it to him, you owe it to the roster that you have, you owe it to the person that you just drafted to go out in free agency and actually try to put a coherent, cohesive team around these guys. Get guys that will fit, get creators that will fit, get guys, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's No, I was saying that was my point. If if you were to trade DJ, like that's me assuming DJ isn't there. Like if you traded DJ, Kelden was like, screw it, I'm just throwing it all out there. Would it be really worth it? I guess the money has to go in somewhere.
To me, the only way you do that is if like you completely whiff and you get absolutely nothing to work with. And I don't even know if you do that immediately. Because like, you know, DJ is still 26. He's not quite at the point where I'm ready to say, oh my God, he's too old to, you know, start this rebuild with. But yeah, then you start having to have difficult conversations of what are we going to do? We couldn't get any of these big names to come here to play with him in this free agency.
Yeah.
We couldn't get high enough in the draft to get this big name to help us. You know, that's where you have to have the hard conversation of, okay, where does this team go from here? And obviously we don't want to get to that point. And if we get to that, we'll come to it. But I think that's the only time you start looking at like, okay, here's a tough question. You know, what do we do?
I don't think this year is that year either. Even based off what I just saw, I don't think that this year is the year that you press the panic button and you start saying, okay, DJ's stock is high, but let's go ahead and trade him. I don't think this would be the year.
Or we're just going to wait and run it back and then have the same exact season and
run it back, baby.
And wait till value tank.
Assuming that they don't spend the money. We have the second to third highest cap space in the offseason. We can afford to sign our max agent. Not everybody that's talented is going to get signed by a team. There's somebody that we will end up getting and paying the money to. Somebody's going to get paid. I don't think that they're going to sit on their hands and be like, well, we can't get the two guys that we wanted, so we're just not going to sign anybody. That wouldn't make too much sense.
Yeah, and the money got to go somewhere.
It has to go somewhere. So I would say test it out. See who you can draft this offseason. See who you can get in free agency this offseason. See where that lands you next year. If you feel as though there's a natural cap with DJ as your point guard, if there's a natural cap with Kelden Johnson as your current second option, not saying it'll be the second option next year, saying that maybe he's the third option, the fourth option offensively next year. If this team can't get you to even the playoffs as a fifth or sixth seed, after you spend all the money, after you get lottery picks, after you've given them time to develop, after you have an all-star point guard, they can't even get you to fifth or sixth seed, then you can start saying and having the conversation, well, maybe we need to blow it up. Because DJ stock isn't going to just fall through it ain't going to just fall overnight. You know, he still has a high rep around the league, regardless of if he has a more subpar year next year. People are going to, same thing with De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox still commands a high price, despite the fact he had an off year this year. You know?
Yeah. I mean, dude, this team is not good. Like, it's not good. And if you run it back, you're going to get worse because teams below us are going to be better. And the NBA is a league where if you don't get better, you get worse. So if we don't get better, we're going to get worse. And we're going to win 25 to 30 games. And I'm going to be, fighting with people on social media because I don't think that Kelden Johnson and DeJounte Murray are going to be, the dynamic duo of the 2020s that everybody on Spurs Twitter is going to be screaming about. We're going to be celebrating these 25-point outings from them while we're losing every single game. So like,
I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you, Matty. Like I've been known as the hyper optimist when it comes to the Spurs, and like I've agreed with almost everything you've said this season. Like they're not. I was kind of disagreeing with you like a couple seasons ago, mainly because I believed in DeMar and LA, and I was thinking, well, we could maybe make a run. But this team is nothing. Like it's nothing there. I'm sorry. Like
my last point, and Harrison. I mean, you and I have talked about this dozens of times. This offseason just has a feeling where they're actually going to choose a direction because they didn't this past season. They did not choose a direction. It was terrible.
Tryouts.
Yeah, but
it was just a let's see what happens type of season.
Yeah, but this offseason, because they had a whole season, they saw this whole season of Devin Vassell and Kelden Johnson, DeJounte Murray, etc. So like this offseason, you got lot of options. You got tradable assets, cap space, draft picks, etc. Like you have, like you said, like Harrison mentioned, like, you know, can we get somebody to, you know, come here and play with DJ with our cap space? You know, are we able to actually be able to trade up in the draft, even though we've been trying and failing at that miserably for years now? Like, can we do that? So that's why, and if like the answer is yes, then it's like, all right, we're going to get our guys, you know, whether it's DeAndre Ayton or Zach LaVine or somebody else in free agency. Maybe it's just a couple mid-level guys like a Kyle Anderson type player, but then we trade for like Donovan Mitchell. I mean, again, I'm not saying that's probable, but you know, maybe we're able to land a guy like that, and then in the draft, you know, we're able to trade up and get our guy, and it's like, all right, we got our guys. But if none of that comes to fruition, if none of that happens, then it's like, all right, like Harrison said, we couldn't get anybody to come here. We're probably not going to get anybody anytime soon because we're not getting any better. We didn't get our draft pick we want. We got another, you know, 8 to 10 pick range guy that's going to, you know, be a role player forever, or if he's not even in Austin. And then, you know, in the trade market, we weren't able to get to do anything there as well. So then it's like you said, that's when you have to have the tough conversations. Like, we can't keep doing this mediocre shit. We can't keep doing this below mediocre crap. You know, like just below mediocre, but not enough to be like a tanking team or you getting, you know, top picks. So, I mean, this is the offseason. It's going to teeter one way or the other, and I just don't feel like there's a whole lot of gray area. So that's my last point. I will end
I'll say to that point, I think y'all are kind of agreeing. It's just a little different because I think what Impeccabull is saying is he agrees that, like, you know, if you screw up this offseason and you pay this money and you can't, but like that you can't just deal DJ right away this offseason is what he's saying. Like, if you go out and sign these players, you have to see how they fit, and we're gonna know real quick how they fit in that season. So I think he's saying that, like,
it'd definitely be like a deadline thing too.
Yeah, I that's what I would think it is. I think you know, you go out there, you go hard at some of these names, you try and see what you can do in the draft, you look at that trade market, you exhaust every option you can to see how you can make this team better. Then you give them a test run here, and if it's not like immediately better and you're not seeing results, then yeah, it comes time to have that conversation. Okay, here's the thing, we've done all we can do with this group. Is it time to move on? So I think y'all are both saying similar things. Just like he was just saying, you can't like whiff on free agency and then immediately deal DJ the next day.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, no, that's why I was saying like it's a deadline thing, because then, you know, you will get new players, and then, you know, you will kind of see it. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised with how the new players do, even if they're not, you know, huge names or, you know, first overall picks. Maybe we do strike lightning in a bottle, and Kelden and DeJounte, you know, do turn into Hall of Famers like Spurs Twitter says all the time.
It's going to be a problem if you go all out this off season and then you end up being mediocre. That's a huge problem. That's a big red flag.
Yeah, that's a morale breaker. I mean, that just tells you, man, we really. And I don't think that'll happen. I think if you go all out, I honestly think if this team does have a high ceiling based off of certain moves, if you go all out in the off season, you trade up for a certain guy who you'll have for the next few years, you go into free agency trying to get specific free agents, and if you do land on one of them even, well, then that's a far better team than what we had last year. That naturally has a far higher ceiling than we did last year.
And I know we're ending it. I just don't see you being able to and trading up is so hard in the draft. I just don't see you being able to trade up. I mean, unless you're giving rid of DeJounte. I just don't see you being able to do that. I don't know.
I would say the only other prospect worth anything to any other team is probably going to be Devin Vassell. I don't know if this team trades Devin Vassell.
I don't think they want to.
I would think they would if the price is right. However,
not for a pick or two.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not a pickup.
Folks, there you have it. There's episode 2 of View of the Rafters. Views from the Rafters, not View of the Rafters. We're looking down. You're looking back up. We see you. You see us. Thanks for joining us. We're going to try and get these out every week, just kind of shooting the shit, talking Spurs, everything. Trying to have some new topics every week. So feel free to leave some questions down below that we can talk about. I'm going to we'll put all the social media links in the description. That way we don't have to go through it at the end. But stay with us. We were named Gatorade's National Podcast of the Year. So you know, it's just where it's at for the solid takes, because that's the metric we want to be associated with.
Exactly.
4 blocks per episode is what we're going for with Clan's takes. He's gonna have to block some people on social media after all.
How does get here? Get that off the screen.
But anyway, guys, we will catch you next week. Thank you for joining us. Peace out, and go Spurs go.
Come to San Antonio, DeAndre Ayton.